So, if you've been on the internet in any capacity over the past 4 years, you've probably heard about the male loneliness epidemic. This has become an increasingly prolific topic of conversation, especially recently with the growing gender divide and the jump in the far right radicalization of young men. Young men are skewing more to the right, while young women are more left leaning now than they've ever been. And a lot of people have pointed to the fact that the reasons why so many young men are susceptible to far right radicalization is because they're lonely. So it got me thinking, why are men so lonely? Are more and more young boys and men struggling to establish meaningful bonds and connections with each other? I also approached those reportings with a healthy level of skepticism because the initial reporting about young men being so lonely actually came out of a study examining how, since the pandemic, young people in general, including young women, reported having fewer close friends than the years before. It was just that men reported having significantly fewer, sometimes no close friendships, than their female counterparts. But that felt so inconsistent to the depictions of male friendships that dominated my childhood. Growing up, all I saw in film and TV were bromances. So much of my media consumption from the late 90s to the 2010s showcased some sort of bromance. Now, I know movies and TV shows aren't truly reflective of real life, but I do think they somewhat mirror our actual lives. I just think it's interesting how prolific these examples of bromances, men having deep, intimate relationships with each other, were in the past, and how now we're bemoaning the fact that men are becoming lonelier. In my research about bromances, one thing that kept coming up was the homoerotic overtones of these platonic male friendships. In research conducted that examined real-life bromances, one of the main principles was that the men were able to have that close bond with each other because they had a very accepting attitude towards homosexuality. Even though they themselves were straight, they wanted to have a deep emotional and physical connection to their male friend and did not care if other people thought that that made them gay. In fact, it seemed that homoeroticism was a core component of the bromance. Why aren't more men having bromances like the ones we used to see on TV? And what can we take away from these depictions of romances that might help men bridge that gap? Is the homoeroticism a core component of the bromance? In today's video, we're going to be exploring some of the homoerotic overtones of on-screen bromances. One of the core tenets that sets bromances apart from regular male friendships is the physical and emotional intimacy shared among the men. These connections are unique in the fact that the men have a closer than normal relationship with one another. In pop culture's depictions of this kind of intimacy, the men desiring physical and emotional intimacy from one another are played for laughs and are usually rebuffed by an external party's homophobic reaction to them. The way in which this is usually depicted is by having the relationship mirror that of the dynamic of a romantic couple. The joke lies in the fact that the men expect a level of intimacy typically only found in a romantic relationship. In the TV show Friends, Joey and Chandler share a platonic relationship. They are best friends and roommates and spend a lot of time together. Oftentimes, their relationship is a catalyst of a lot of homoerotic jokes in the series. That dynamic of homoerotic overtones of two heterosexual friends is persistent throughout the show and in all of our examples in this video.
I want to take my tongue and... and...
Say it. Say it!
run it all over your body until you're trembling with...
In one episode, after struggling for a long time to find acting work, Joey finally gets his big break and starts on a popular soap opera show. As a result, Joey, who normally struggles financially, is making so much more money that he thinks it's time to move out and find his own apartment, ending his cohabitation with his best friend Chandler. For comedic purposes, this is treated as something of a breakup between the two men, Chandler assuming the overbearing jealous girlfriend role, and Joey the nonchalant, emotionally unavailable boyfriend role.
I saw the way you were checking out his moldings. You want it.
Why would I want another apartment? Huh? I've already got an apartment that I love.
Well, it wouldn't kill you to say it once in a while.
Joey does eventually decide to move out, which takes a toll on Chandler. Chandler considers Joey more than just a roommate and a friend, and is hurt that in Joey's pursuit of independence and autonomy, he would forego the emotional intimacy they've established. Chandler is so hurt by Joey's decision that he does not even accompany the other friends to see Joey's new apartment. Joey also seems to have struggled with his decision. He also misses the emotional intimacy he had with Chandler. Interestingly, neither men ever feel comfortable enough to express that to each other. Instead, they both feign ambivalence and even content with the new dynamic of their relationship, despite it obviously feeling less fulfilling to both.
Well, I hear the place looks great.
Oh, forget about it. I'm having a ball. How's the apartment doing?
Oh, hey, it's terrific. I mean, it's a regular space. Fest.
Oh, well, great.
Yeah, I just, wanted to call and say, hey.
Well, okay then.
But this is what mature adult relationships are supposed to look like. Both Joey and Chandler feel pressure to acclimate to their new dynamic, despite both feeling dissatisfied. As the scene goes on, Joey and Chandler try to bond and reconnect over their mutual appreciation of Baywatch, a drama series following attractive lifeguards in swimsuits.
This is the brilliance of the show. I say always keep them running. All the time running. Run. Run! Run, Yasmin! Run like the wind!
The show almost stops in its tracks to remind us that both these men are straight, despite desiring more intimacy from one another. Their heterosexuality can never be challenged and must always be reinforced, and therein lies one of the key components of on-screen bromances. In all the examples we look at in this video, heterosexuality serves as a backdrop to the homoeroticism. The show never wants you to truly believe that these men would romantically love each other. Eventually, Chandler learns to be okay with Joey's decision and decides to move on, going as far as to seek out a new roommate to replace him, despite the fact that he had said he had the financial capability of living alone. But it was never about just getting another roommate. Chandler yearns for the emotional intimacy he had with Joey and decides to seek that out in someone new. Eddie. The show continues to play on the dynamic that Joey and Chandler's relationship mirror that of a romantic couple. Joey becomes very jealous of Chandler's rebound, which leads to a fight between the two.
So what's it about?
Eggs. Whose eggs do you like better, his or mine, huh?
Well, I like both eggs equally.
Oh, come on. Nobody likes two different kinds of eggs equally. You like one better than the other, and I want to know which.
Well, what's the difference? Your eggs aren't here anymore, are they? You took your eggs and you left. Did you really expect me to never find new eggs?
While Joey mourns the loss of his relationship with Chandler, Joey tries to replicate the emotional intimacy he had with Joey with his new roommate Eddie.
You want to play some foosball?
No, thanks, man. I'm not really into sports.
They both miss each other and want to re-establish the emotional intimacy they once had. What's really interesting to me about this dynamic is that despite both of them clearly wanting more from each other, they never feel secure enough to express that. Even in the resolution, they aren't brought back together through emotional vulnerability and honesty. They reconnect because Joey lost his job and his ability to pay for his apartment, and Chandler kicks Eddie out because he was emotionally volatile. A similar dynamic exists in The Big Bang Theory between best friends Howard and Raj. Howard and Raj's friendship is the target of many homoerotic and homophobic jokes in the show. In one episode, Leonard's mother, world-renowned psychologist Beverly, visits. She's known for being characteristically cold and analytical. She spends most of her visits psychoanalyzing the friend group, and her assessment of Howard and Raj is that their mutual fear of women have led them to bond in a homosexual relationship.
It might explain why the two of you have created an ersatz homosexual marriage to satisfy your need for intimacy.
Say what?
The duo reacts very negatively to this and argues in a way that mirrors marital spats.
Well, then why didn't you say that to her? Why is it always my responsibility? It's not always your responsibility. I swear this is the same thing you did at the comic book store last week. I can't believe you're bringing that up. I didn't bring it up, you did. We'll talk about this later. But you always say that, but we never do.
Despite making constant jokes about Raj and Howard being gay, the show constantly reinforces their heterosexuality by having them respond in shame whenever anyone points out the closeness of their relationship. Oftentimes, Raj is the one who desires more emotional intimacy from Howard, who is sometimes unwilling to do so out of shame, ambivalence, or selfishness. In one episode, Raj expresses his frustration at Howard abandoning him to pursue women. In one of these instances, during a kite competition, Howard abandons his teammate Raj to pursue a woman, resulting in Raj losing his favorite kite. This leads to a huge rift in the pair's bond, with Raj expressing jealousy and resentment at his relationship with Howard being treated as less significant than Howard's romantic pursuits.
I always do this, you know? You ditch me for a woman you don't have a shot with. I totally had a shot. With a woman you were chasing through a park. That's not a shot, that's a felony. What's worse, it cost me my prized patang fighting kite.
Interestingly enough, this is very different from traditional male relationships and expectations. Men are almost always expected and even encouraged to put more effort into their romantic connections with women than in their platonic homosocial friendships. But Raj expects more from Howard. I also want to point out that Raj's desire for deeper emotional intimacy with Howard is treated as weird and inappropriate in the show. Every time Raj demands more commitment from Howard, a glaring laugh track echoes, undercutting what would have been an earnest plea for emotional intimacy as nothing more than a joke.
Wow, you just don't get it, do you? Buying me something pretty isn't gonna make our problem just go away.
Raj is the emotionally unstable woman crying and pleading with an irreverent man, Howard, to respect and love her, which is the entire joke. Again, I want to point out that despite the obvious homoerotic tone, their heterosexuality is always affirmed, as Howard's neglect of Raj stems from his aggressive pursuit of women, not men.
All the time. Last week in the mall at Radio Shack, we were looking for a phone with giant numbers for your mother. And I suddenly realized you're not even there.
I know,
And where were you?
Getting shot down by the girl at Hot Dog on a Stick. But in my defense, she was gorgeous. And working that squeezer to make the lemonade going up and down and up. It was like a free pole dance right in the middle of the food court.
To arrive at a reconciliation, Howard must reaffirm to Raj his commitment to their relationship in a manner similar to a boyfriend reaffirming his love for his girlfriend.
I don't know.
Come on. Let me take you someplace nice.
The conflict ends with Raj forgiving Howard, but at the end, Howard again abandons Raj to pursue another woman, something Raj seemed to have just learned to come to accept. For as much as the show likes to make gay jokes at their expense, the show needs to also constantly remind you they are in fact straight.
Oh man, did you see the way she smiled at me?
In another episode, Raj, who constantly faces ridicule by everyone in the show for embracing his femininity, spends more time hanging out with the girls in the show. They spend time together making jewelry, which leads to Howard making several homophobic jokes at Raj's expense.
You know they're making jewelry, right?
You think they came up with that? They were gonna drink beer and play darts.
What's up? Not his testosterone levels.
Excuse me, I happen to be very comfortable with my masculinity.
How is that possible? Hello, everyone.
Okay, let me have it. Let's hear all the Raj is a girl jokes.
No, Bernadette told me it isn't nice, and I'm not allowed.
Thank you.
So I won't be making fun of you, or the things you like, or the fact that you just want to have fun.
Raj expresses that he sometimes feels he cannot fully express himself around Howard out of fear of homophobic retaliation and feels more comfortable around the girls. Despite their very close bond, Raj does not feel like his emotional needs are being adequately met by Howard. Howard expresses regret for his actions and apologizes to Raj.
Since when can't you open up with me?
There are just some things that I feel more comfortable sharing with the girls because they won't make fun of me or call me names or ask me if my kutra panties are in a bunch.
This is a big moment in the relationship and an advancement of their emotional intimacy. But of course, the moment is undercut by a homophobic joke.
I didn't realize I was making you feel that way. It was very brave of you to tell me.
Thank you. Wasn't easy.
They're gonna have sex before Sheldon and I do. I knew it!
In Boy Meets World, Cory and Shawn have a very emotionally intimate relationship. They openly express a love and admiration for one another. Again, like in all our other examples, the joke is that their friendship plays out intimacy in a very similar way as in a romantic bond. A lot of the comedy derives from how other people react to the closeness of the relationship. Interestingly enough, the homophobic overtones are more repressed in this depiction. Of course, the joke is that they're so close that people think they're gay, but they never let that stop them from expressing their deep love for one another.
Why is everybody staring? What are they looking at?
Well, Shawn, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you're kind of a babe.
Really?
Yeah. You want me to, like, carry your books for you?
I get that. Yeah, thanks.
And most people seem to accept the level of emotional intimacy they share, though sometimes there is a little bit of shame.
And you're here, and I'm alive, so it must be you.
I'd take a bullet for you.
No, Shawnee, I love you.
Yeah, I love you too, Cory. I'm not ashamed. Now I'm ashamed. Okay.
In one episode, Shawn begins dating a girl who does not like the closeness that he and Cory share and demand that Shawn spends less time with him. What ensues is multiple scenarios played out as if Shawn is cheating on his girlfriend Jennifer with Cory.
What, this is ridiculous. How can you let some girl tell you you can't see your best friend? It's just wrong. Do you hear me? Wrong. Shawn, are you there?
Yeah, I was just listening to the sound of your voice and thinking about the old days.
I gotta see you.
No.
The boys cannot seem to keep away from each other and express a desire to continue seeing each other in secret. Despite both boys now having romantic connections with girls, they still require the deep emotional intimacy they've established with each other. In a lot of ways, it's implied that the emotional intimacy they have is more important to them than their romantic connections. In this episode in particular, Shawn's romantic relationship is depicted as being a distraction to his friendship with Cory.
Hello?
It's me. Look,
You're not coming.
I just can't make it tonight, man.
I see.
Is that okay?
Well, if you're asking me, am I hurt? No, I'm not hurt.
It's just that Jennifer invited me to a country club.
And you couldn't very well tell her you're having dinner with me.
Cory, she found my box of Cinnabon receipts.
Again, like I've been pointing out, all of this homoeroticism takes place against the backdrop of heterosexuality. The show reaffirms the boy's attraction to girls, just in case you forgot. Cory is consoled about the rift in his friendship by his girlfriend Topanga, and it's Shawn's inability to resist his physical attraction to Jennifer that even leads to a rift in their friendship.
I'm not quite so sure I see it that way. Wow, suddenly everything is so clear.
Then you see my point?
Yes, you're a really good debater.
The show never lets you forget that despite their deep desire for emotional intimacy with one another, the boys are very straight. In fact, I don't think the show would have even done a plotline like this if both Cory and Shawn were not in a heterosexual bond, out of fear that the audience might mistake their closeness for genuine homosexual attraction. Their heterosexuality is a safety net to facilitate these kinds of jokes.
Hey, that Cinnabon was for me, wasn't it?
Cory.
We gotta meet.
But where?
Paris.
In the end, Jennifer gives Shawn an ultimatum. It's either her or Cory, and Shawn chooses Cory. In another episode, Shawn becomes very angry at Cory when he finds out that Cory has been applying to colleges Shawn will never attend, meaning that they might not be together during college.
Wisconsin and Penn? We never discussed those.
Well, it doesn't have to be Wisconsin or Penn, Shawnee. It can be a school from your list. What's on your list?
You want to know what's on my list? Number one, I don't need a list because my best friend Cory wouldn't apply to any school that I couldn't get into.
Your list makes me feel bad. Shawn, you know, it's early. I have no idea what my plans are.
Oh, interesting. Your plans, not our plans.
Don't you take that tone with me, Shawn Hunter.
Shawn feels that Cory is not prioritizing their friendship by factoring it into his major life decisions, and as such, thinks they should take a break from one another and make new friends. In this episode especially, their friendship is treated the same as a romantic relationship, and their separation as a breakup. Shawn has gone on to make a new friend, and Cory is hurt and sees it as a betrayal, so he decides to make a new friend as well by sweet-talking and seducing another boy.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Lionel.
I know who you are.
Grapes?
I'd love some. I'm taking another boy's grapes.
Explicitly in this episode, albeit at Cory's expense, Shawn and Cory's friendship is spoken about like a romantic relationship. Shawn dumped Cory. Cory's sister teases him about getting a new boyfriend.
I want to talk about it.
Cory and Shawn had a fight. Shawn dumped him.
Now, nobody got dumped. We just agreed not to see each other for a while.
Can you believe that?
Well, someone from school called a Lionel.
Is that your new boyfriend?
There are explicit conversations about Cory and Shawn's relationship bordering on homosexual attraction. At one point, Topanga kisses Cory just to reaffirm that he's actually straight.
Did you enjoy that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
Cory's own father questions Cory's sexuality.
Is everything okay between him and Topanga?
Great. Never better.
When they kiss, he enjoys it, right?
Despite their breakup, Cory and Shawn still deeply care about one another, even if they aren't able to fully express that to each other. Turns out, the reason Shawn was so upset was that when they first met, when they were younger, Shawn saved Cory and they became friends under the promise that he would not leave him when he moved to college. The boys' friendship means so much to them that Shawn, who normally slacks off at school, commits himself to working really hard just so that he'll end up at the same college as Cory. And of course, that moment of emotional intimacy is undercut by a homophobic joke.
Stop it. You're boys. Stop it. You're boys.
The TV show 2.5 Men is a show created solely on the premise of the homoerotic joke of two straight men living together in the same house raising a child. As such, the entire series is filled with instances of jokes and scenarios where the premise is the two men are in some sort of romantic relationship because of how unusual it is for men to enter that kind of living situation. Interestingly enough, the main characters, Charlie and Alan, are biological brothers, but even the implication of incest is not enough to dissuade writers from making jokes about the brothers being in a romantic relationship. At some points, Charlie and Alan pretend to be in a gay relationship to get what they want.
Oh, how do you lovebirds meet?
Funny you should ask. We were at the Coffee Bean, you know, the one in Larchmont Village where the pastries are to die for.
This becomes especially prominent when the series replaces Charlie Sheen with another character after some issues behind the scenes. This replacement, Walden, fills in Charlie's place, and there are more jokes about them being romantically attracted to each other. There was even an entire plotline where Walden and Alan get married just so that Walden would have a better chance of adopting a child.
I'd start looking at golden retriever puppies because there's no way you're getting a baby. You're a single guy, and the system is really geared towards married couples.
Alan Harper, will you marry me?
Another aspect of homoerotic bromance is categorized by physical intimacy. Men want to be physically intimate, whether through cuddling, hugging, or even kissing. The physical intimacy is most times played for laughs or is implied to have happened accidentally, so as to not threaten the men's heterosexuality. They don't really want to be physically intimate with each other, it just sort of happened. In one episode of Friends in season 1, Chandler expresses his frustration of going another year without having a New Year's kiss. At the end of the episode, he refuses to go into the new year without a kiss and begs someone to kiss him, and Joey, without even a second thought, obliges and kisses Chandler.
Somebody kiss me, it's midnight, it's one time.
Both Chandler and Joey are shocked at the kiss, even Joey, who seemed to have done it without really thinking. In another episode, Joey auditions for a play where he has to do a stage kiss with another man. The director liked him, but felt his kiss was not believable enough. Joey thinks that in order to feel more comfortable kissing a man, he has to practice, and spends the entire episode trying to convince Chandler and Ross and even Monica's boyfriend to kiss him.
You know, maybe you're just not used to kissing men. You know, maybe you just tensed up a little bit. Maybe that's what you need to work on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Over my dead body.
And I'll be using his dead body as a shield.
In the end, Ross works up the courage to kiss Joey under the guise of being a good friend and helping him with his audition.
I've been feeling incredibly guilty about this because I want to be a good friend. And damn it, I am a good friend, so just shut up and close your eyes.
Only to find out that the audition had already happened and Joey did not get the role. In another episode, after hanging out with each other, Joey and Ross fall asleep and accidentally cuddled. The two men are embarrassed by the events, but both express that it was the best nap either of them has ever had.
Admit it. That was the best nap you ever had.
I've had better.
Okay, when?
All right, it was the best nap ever! I said it, okay? But it's over, Joey.
They both enjoy the physical intimacy, but feel shame about continuing to do it because it's weird.
I want to do it again.
We can't do it again.
Why not?
Because it's weird.
Eventually, they do decide to do it again, but are mortified when they are caught by the rest of the friend group.
Dude, what the hell are you doing?
It's interesting that they both clearly enjoy the physical intimacy, but it's the outside shame that prevents them from feeling free to explore it. In Drake and Josh, the stepbrothers express physical intimacy with each other all the time by hugging.
Hug me, brother! Hug me, brother! Hug me, brother!
Hug me, brother?
Not here, man. There's people.
Quick one?
Josh, at one point becoming so overjoyed with his love for Drake, kisses him.
The tickets. Oh, and, backstage passes. You love me again?
Love ya?
Okay, this is so going on the internet.
But it must always be under the premise that they don't really enjoy it, and in fact, are sometimes embarrassed to express themselves in that way.
Wow. And that's not even the best part. See? I have one too. Wait, check it out. You can wear yours, and we can have little sword fights whenever we want.
In Big Bang Theory, Howard, after entering into a relationship with Bernadette, decides that he wants Bernadette and Ross to bond and get to know each other better. These are two people who are very important to him and who each have a strong emotional connection to him, so he would want them to also have a strong emotional connection to each other. Raj and Bernadette do begin to bond initially over their shared amusement and annoyance at some of Howard's quirks.
And when you go to a Chinese restaurant, he always gets the same fortune in his fortune cookie.
Right. Help, I'm a prisoner in a Chinese fortune cookie factory.
Okay, I think that's enough about me.
He's right. Let's make fun of his mother.
Howard, come rub my feet. My corns are killing me.
Howard, help me out of that sub. I'm stuck again.
Throughout the night, Raj gets increasingly drunk and terrified that he's going to end up all alone, and that no one will ever love him. Bernadette offers Raj some words of encouragement, which leads to Raj trying to kiss her, only for Howard to step in the way at the last minute and accidentally kissing Raj.
Well, this was fun.
In the aftermath of the kiss, both Raj and Howard struggle to even make eye contact with each other. They feel immense shame about what happened, not necessarily because they crossed a personal boundary, but because it represented a threat to their heterosexuality.
You had to play with Raj's big telescope last night?
Where did that come from?
He never touched my telescope.
Way to go shutting up. I did shut up. Now you shut up. Fine, thank you.
I can't believe you didn't call me this morning.
As we've seen oftentimes in the show, Raj has no issue expressing emotional and physical intimacy with Howard. And based on their conversations, Howard has no issue reciprocating that intimacy in private. It's only in the presence of others that they both, specifically Howard, feel shame expressing themselves. It comes from a fear of both men being perceived as gay, which sometimes make them unable to be physically and emotionally intimate with each other in the way that they truly desire.
Oh, what about that tubby girl in the Sailor Moon costume at Comic-Con?
Don't remember. Please sit down.
The only threesome I've ever had in my whole life. And I'm proud to say it was with this man right here.
Although at some points, both Raj and Howard seem oblivious at how their desire for physical and emotional intimacy with each other reads as homosexual attraction to those around them.
Better?
Yeah, you got it.
I'm impressed. This is very lifelike.
Well, you just bit my tongue.
Oh, I nibbled. I was being playful.
Why do you have to make everything weird?
Sorry. Better?
Oh, yeah.
I also want to point out that because The Big Bang Theory thinks being gay is the funniest thing ever, Raj is the target of most of the homophobic jokes in the series, even at times by his best friend Howard. It's often Raj who is unaware of how he's being perceived as gay by those around him, and Howard, out of shame, has to reel him in.
Oh man, the first monster I see, I'm gonna sneak up behind him, whip out my wand, and shoot my magic all over his ass.
Do you hear yourself when you say these things?
Anyone have a rod of resurrection? Because if you've got one, I need it bad. Get in here with your rod and give it to me.
Okay, you need to say these things in your head before you say them out loud.
Come on.
Girls' night, girls' night.
How does he not hear that?
In a previous episode that we talked about where Raj prefers to spend more time with the girls and he is ridiculed for his emotional vulnerability by Howard, Howard constantly makes homophobic joke at Raj's expense, despite the fact that he has the most intimate bond with him than anyone else. Because to do so is to reaffirm his heterosexuality. To do so is to be a man.
I didn't know you were coming again.
Well, last week was a blast. Plus, I thought you might like having a guy here.
It was not funny.
Another one of the core aspects of this trope is the implication that the bromantic relationship is more significant to the men than their romantic relationships. We see where sometimes the men's significant others will make comments about how close their male platonic friendships are, but ultimately decide that they have to accept it and facilitate it in their lives. A running joke in Boy Meets World is that Cory loves his best friend Shawn more than his girlfriend Topanga.
How can there be anything wrong between you and Cory? You love him more than I do. It's true, but I'm okay with it.
Even in the episode where Cory and Topanga get married, the central conflict of the episode had nothing to do with their relationship or even the wedding. It was all about Cory and Shawn. Shawn, who is Cory's best man, is feeling neglected by Cory on his wedding day. He's upset that Cory has not considered how him getting married would affect their relationship and is feeling like he's going to be left behind. Cory just wants Shawn to take his best man duties seriously, but the two get into a huge argument and Shawn says he will not be attending the ceremony. The wedding goes on as planned and Shawn shows up at the last minute and fights Cory on his wedding day.
You've been being a jerk to me. That's because you're the one that forgot the tuxedos, and you're the one that didn't tie the tin cans. It's like you're trying to sabotage my wedding day. That is ridiculous. If I wanted to sabotage your wedding day, I'd do this.
Shawn and Cory are anxious about how much things will change once Cory gets married. They eventually do resolve their issues, but even what should have been the emotional climax of Cory and Topanga's relationship takes a backseat to Cory's relationship with Shawn.
Do you really like her?
Yeah, I really do.
You sure?
John, I really think I've been very tolerant here.
In The Big Bang Theory, Raj takes on a similar role. He's the emotional third wheel of Howard and Bernadette's relationship. He's a part of every major moment they share. He plans their wedding. He was also heavily involved in the birth of their first child. Howard and Raj even debated what them being in a gay romantic relationship would look like.
I'll make you a deal. 30 years from now, if you're still single and things don't work out with me and Bernadette, you and I can give it a go.
You're such a child.
Hey, is that any way to talk to your future husband?
Hey, I was being hypothetical, okay? I would never marry you.
Please, when you see the ring I pick out, you're gonna melt.
Yeah, right. Wait, is it rose gold? Actually, don't tell me. I want to be surprised.
At one point, Raj moves in with Bernadette and Howard. He's always there, a permanent fixture of their relationship. In the TV show Friends, as Chandler and Monica's relationship develops, Joey is a constant consideration for him. They treat him as their surrogate child. Even when they buy a new house to start their family in, they have a dedicated room just for Joey.
Now that you're okay with the house, do you want to go see your room?
What? I get my own room?
You don't think we'd buy a house and not have a Joey room, do you?
Oh my God. Hey. Oh. Hey, can I have an aquarium and a sex swing?
They've accepted the fact that because of his connection with Chandler, he'll always be a part of their lives. One thing you might have noticed in these examples is that there is a stark difference between how each of the men is portrayed. There is always one sexually aggressive ladies' man and one more reserved, sexually inept man. One is portrayed as a womanizer and one struggles to get girls. Interestingly, the more reserved emotional party is often coded as being gay in the shows. Their willingness for emotional intimacy and monogamy makes them soft and effeminate, while the more sexually aggressive and perverse party fits in more neatly with our traditional ideas of masculinity. It's the sex that separates these men and makes them different from one another. Whoever has more access to it can more fully embrace a traditional ideal of masculinity. Homoeroticism seems to be a core aspect of bromances because of how we've been socialized to view male relationships. The type of emotional and physical intimacy that are standard in female friendships are treated as weird and inappropriate in male friendships. But there was a change in the late 90s onwards. As our collective understanding of homosexuality changed, there was also a decrease in homohysteria, that is, the large spread fear of being perceived as gay. As society became more accepting of homosexuality, more and more men were saying that they did not care if expressing their desire for emotional intimacy from other men made other people think they were gay. It seems that in order to have somewhat of a deep connection with each other, there also needs to be a radical acceptance of homosexuality among men. I don't think it's a coincidence that since the 2020s, where we've seen a rise in queerphobia spawned from a rise in transphobia, that we're also seeing more men express deep sadness and loneliness. I think there is a link between the rise in embracing traditional masculine roles where men need to be men, and more men saying they feel dissatisfied. In order to have that deep emotional bond and connection with each other, men need to also be okay with being perceived as gay or effeminate, which would mean they would also have to reject patriarchal forms of masculinity. It's a little sad that we haven't seen these kind of romances on TV in the past couple of years, but I do think they offer a window and an example of how fulfilled men could be if they were open to connecting with each other in this way. But that's it. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.